Ryan, what is your point today?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about this the Section 702 controversy that we've been that I hope people have been following, because it's the 702, as people may or may not know, is referred to as kind of the crown jewel of the surveillance state. It is the authority that gives the NSA what they call a legal rationale to do their most intensive spying and surveillance, but it is supposed to bar them from spying on Americans, essentially. And so there was a big report in Wired, and we could put this up. This is a post from Warren Davidson, a Republican congressman who's been very good on this issue, sharing this Wired report that found that, according to a declassified audit of the Section 702 authority execution, the government had searched the name of a U.S. congressman, attempting to find some type of connection to foreign influence. This is within the kind of surveillance world an explosive revelation, because it goes beyond just an example of them actually searching, and surveilling an American citizen, but actually an American congressman. We don't know, who that congressman is. We don't know what the context is, but the FBI, or the Department of Justice, has finally responded. So yesterday, the Assistant Attorney General, Matthew Olson, spoke at the Brookings Institution, and he addressed this. So I'll just read this and do this for the podcast people too, so if they can't read it on the screen. So he said, "Every compliance incident matters, of course, but incidents involving U.S. person information are especially damaging to public trust. Congress authorized the government to collect foreign intelligence under Section 702 without obtaining individual court orders, because 702 targets non-U.S. persons who are outside the United States. While the intelligence community has collected the foreign intelligence information because of the need to protect national security, we still need strong guardrails when the intelligence community searches this data for information about Americans." He goes on, "To be clear, it is critically important that the government is able to do exactly that. When we examine 702 information using query terms associated with U.S. persons, we're often trying to identify U.S. person victims of foreign hacking or spying. That's what lets us warn and protect them. If we are to keep protecting Americans from escalating cyber and espionage threats, we need to maintain the capacity to conduct U.S. person queries. This is especially true for the FBI, which is responsible for protecting the homeland from national security threats emanating from overseas." So what Olson is suggesting to the public here is that they were actually spying on this member of Congress for their own good, to protect them. If that were the case, you would expect that they would have, perhaps they would have leaked this to the media, because they're always, looking for, positive coverage of this surveillance authority, so that when it comes back up for reauthorization, they can point to, hey, look what we were able to do. There was this spying operation. They were even coming after this hapless member of Congress, and we busted it up. We let them know. We solved this problem. Or they would have at least briefed Congress and said, hey, look, just so you're not freaked out here, like we ran a query on a member of Congress, but here is exactly why we did it. Like, here is the spy ring. Here's the country that we suspected was spying on them. Here's what they were trying to get out of them, and we uncovered it. This was the result of it, but we just wanted to be transparent about it, because it did involve not just a U.S. person, but a U.S. member of Congress. No evidence that they carried out that briefing. Instead, it got found in this audit, wound up in this report, which was declassified, which Wired uncovered and wrote about. And so now we know about it. And now, after the fact, they're saying, well, oh, actually, that was for their own good, while acknowledging in the report, they say, okay, this was actually illegal. And they claim it was based on a, quote, misunderstanding of the law. So there's nothing wrong with the law. They just kind of misunderstood it, in all of their good intentions, to try to help this member of Congress. I can't imagine that there's anybody listening that finds any of that explanation credible. At least they're feeling enough pressure that they've had to go to Brookings and talk about it. But this is going to heat up over the next several months, as this authority expires, because if it expires, it then throws into question the NSA's entire surveillance program, and then it requires the NSA to come back to Congress, which they often do, and say, well, we actually have these other authorities. We can continue our spying legally without 702. And then you're like, I'm not so sure about that. Let's show me those authorities. Let's examine those too. So what do you think of the potential for this to have some genuine policy implications when it comes to surveillance? Or I also sometimes get the feeling that the public has just kind of moved on. They're just listening to everything all the time, and who cares?
Yeah, although at the same time, I think people are hyper aware of the kind of expansion of government post-COVID. But to your point about policy implications, you can see when this is affecting a member of Congress who was sort of had that nanny state approach from the surveillance for their own good, how members of Congress might then get freaked out. And I'm sure they assume, or they should assume if they're not stupid, that their communication is basically all compromised, whether by a foreign government or by our own government. That's probably a safe assumption. Whether or not it's true in every case, you should probably assume it because you're just so vulnerable in that situation. But to see the government citing it in the way that you framed it, or in the way that they framed it and you point out, is powerful, because that's going to make members of Congress feel undermined. I have absolutely no optimism that they'll fail to reauthorize 702, because you mentioned they love to trot out, anytime it's in jeopardy, they trot out all of these case studies. They say, without 702, we never could have stopped this. What was the Times Square bombing is one that they point to, I think. We never could have stopped.
And they all fall apart under scrutiny.
Yeah.
Like you peel them back a little bit, and you're like, no, actually, none of this is true.
And if you couldn't prevent it through other means, develop other means, find other means, be better, instead of just taking the shortcut of creating the 702 database, which is basically like, if I'm not mistaken, they tap into servers like Google and like to create this massive, massive database that's encrypted until they search it, basically. I mean, it's just the most obscene, and they say it's not mass collection because it's not collection until they search.
Right.
It's outrageous.
Right, plugging into underground cables and that,
exactly,
like that sort of thing. Yeah,
yeah, like the literal wires.
Yeah.
So I'm not optimistic at all that they'll decline to reauthorize it, because even if a situation like this comes up, that I think does probably incense members of Congress, I can't see them building momentum to end Section 702 when you're going to have a full court press from the intelligence community that has all of its buddies at the New York Times and MSNBC doing their bidding. That's going to say there's no way we can get rid of this. Everyone is going to be at immediate risk for a terrorist attack if we do.
Right. Good for Warren Davidson, and other both Democrats and Republicans who are pushing on this. It's one of the rare kind of bipartisan efforts, but it's still a minority of the House.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.